Ja, jetzt wird es auf einer anderen Ebene sehr spannend. Wir werden jetzt künstlerische Präsentationen erleben, die zugleich einen Einblick in die künstlerische Forschung geben der betreffenden Künstlerinnen und Künstler. Und ich darf Ihnen als allererste vorstellen, Esmeralda Conde Ruiz, richtig ausgesprochen? Ruiz. Bene. Esmeralda Conde Ruiz is an internationally renowned Spanish artist who won numerous awards. She works as conductor, singer, as interdisciplinary composer and audiovisual artist-composer. Since 15 years, she lives and works in London, where she became well known for her creating and directing a 500 amateur choir who performed at the 2016 opening of the Tate Modern Turbine Hall in London. Moment, yes, okay. She composes for concert halls, theaters, sound installations. She has composed award-winning film soundtracks, and she has worked together with artists such as Olafur Eliasson, Peter Liversidge, and Matthew Herbert. Her compositions are focused on human voices, but interact with the settings of human life, experiences and surroundings, so that the music evolves from a visual starting point and then develops into sound landscapes, one could say, with rhythmic patterns. In this and her often multilingual compositions, stage elements, light and dark, color and moving images play an important role. Currently, she is the musical director of the Station Clock by my colleague and sound artist Susan Phillips, a huge listening clock, one could say, with more than 1,000 singers, designed for the new railway station in Birmingham. Since April 2022, she lives in Dresden for half a year, and we are happy about, because she is the current artist in residence of the Schaufler Lab of the TU Dresden. And here, she wants to realize an exciting project, I think, exploring artistic intelligence, and to form a choir with the help of artificial intelligence. It is not the human voice who will then make music together with her, but the machine, as factor and at least as consequence of social and cultural change. Please, would you come here to present your performance? I think. Thank you.
Hello. Yes. So thank you. I'm really honored to be here today speaking about my work. And thank you for the lovely introduction. It's really interesting. If you work in sound, people have this romantic idea that you sit by the window smoking and some sort of idea comes to your mind. And I'm delighted that actually I can speak today about the harder part, which is the research that leads to the piece that I'm creating, the performance I'm creating, the sound I'm creating. So I picked a specific point in my research, which is this one. I don't know what I'm doing. It's not the beginning of the research, the honeymoon phase, how I call it, where everything is exciting and one really enjoys the thinking, the ideas, and has enough material to research, people to speak to, books to read, everything's wonderful. It's not that moment. It's also not the moment at the sort of end where the light bulb comes, the inspiration, the idea, where everything makes sense, everything clicks. It's like, yes, I know what I'm doing. Let's go forward. And then you can go and produce the work. It's not that either. It's the middle. It's the messy bit. It's the horrible feeling of, God, I don't know what I'm doing. Nothing makes sense. This feels horrible. Why am I putting myself in these situations? So this is what I want to talk about today. So to give you an idea how my work usually sounds or looks like, I've brought some pictures. So I usually work with choirs that I find or put choirs together as a bigger thing. I place them in specific venues that I choose that make sense sonically or for the theme that I've picked. I work with all sorts of ages and backgrounds, skills, sometimes professional, sometimes not. It's really depending on the project. I ask them to wear specific things. I ask them to stand in a certain way. I ask them to do certain things. So then, to me, they're not a choir. To me, they're a living sculpture that I work with. It's a material that responds, that sometimes doesn't do what I want, and I find that very interesting. I also work with light. So sometimes my pieces are in darkness or work with colorful lights. The words they speak or sing are very hardly researched. It always takes forever to find the right words that don't sound enough. So it's not a musical or like a sing-song. For me, it's really important that it's an artistic performance. So that takes a lot of work to find the right words, sometimes through interviews that I conduct, sometimes through research, collaboration, archives that I go through, lots of ways of finding the right words. I also work in more abstract ways sometimes where I question what is a choir? Does it have to be a singer? Can something else be a choir? I also work with film. And I also work with technology and researchers here. For instance, this is a choir hidden on Zoom, covering the cameras so you don't see them, but they're still a choir. And I work with researchers, dream researchers there to find the material, the data, for instance. So I very much know what I'm doing when I'm in production, when I'm working with my team, when I'm working with the participants, when I run rehearsals. I feel confident when I'm there. It's very busy. My projects are very long. They take forever to be realized, years and years. They overlap. But I'm really interested in giving myself the time and the space that I don't know what I'm doing. It's really important. It's one of the main parts that bring me to these ideas, to these final projects or pieces that I create. So sometimes I have to force myself deliberately to be in that moment. My day-to-day life might not make it happen. That's why I encourage myself every 4 or 5 years to apply for a residency, not to escape my life, but more to challenge myself. I really like that in my practice, to either work with a language that I don't speak, or with instruments that I've never used before, or with technologies that I have not used before. Anything that really works, to think new ways, to get challenged. If I'm too confident, if I just go from, here's my wonderful idea, and let's go into production, there's a huge part missing that I really need to challenge myself every single time again, to rethink, to have space for experimentation, space that everything doesn't feel right, sounds horrible, doesn't look right. It's really, really important. And I guess that's a bit different to other research where it might work differently. But in my personal work, this is how I work, and this is where I get the best results from. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm in Dresden. I found by accident the Schaufler Lab residency, really through researching for a whole different project I came across. I did not know this existed. So it was a call out for artists to collaborate with the university and researchers and to think about artificial intelligence and social change. And I was really interested in that call out because I have no idea about artificial intelligence, but I do like collaboration. And I did like technology and innovation. My works often get that sort of title, and there's a reason for it because I'm curious. I'm always curious to explore what else can I do with a voice, what else can I do with a human. So I did find that call out really interesting. And my wonderful honeymoon research questions were as follow. I wanted to think about if we should create an artificial intelligence choir? And if we would agree to create one, what should that sound like? Should it sound human, or could it actually sound completely different? Could it be a new sound, something that has no gender, no range, vocal range, no needs that human have? Human need to sleep, go to the bathroom, there needs to be breaks in rehearsals. What if I don't have to do that? What would I create with this sort of choir? And what does that actually mean? And the third question was not sonic, but it was more like, who would benefit from it? Am I just doing it because I can and have the needs and the means? Who would actually use this choir, and what emotions would that bring to an audience listening to such choir? And so these were my honeymoon questions that I really loved and was really excited about to think about. And I usually start with, believe it or not, but with a visual. I always do these collages just to get my head around my initial idea. The work itself later never looks like the collages, but I need to sort of spend time, sit down, and just do something with my idea, and that's what I came up with. Might not make any sense, but to me, every time I get lost, I go back to this idea and redo it again and think about it. So I very much found myself in this situation here in Dresden, where I didn't really know what I'm doing, because I don't know anything about artificial intelligence, so I had to learn a lot about it, question a lot about it. But it was also wonderful to suddenly, rather than just having books or a few phone calls, suddenly having a whole university to your feet, answering your questions, showing you around their departments, showing their research. So it was really overwhelming, and seeing other interesting things to really find suddenly the thing that you are interested in. And it took a while, and it was a messy road to it, because it somehow didn't click for me. It took, the first month was wonderful. I spoke to so many incredible, interesting people. I also went out outside the university, went to choirs, the Philharmonie, went to the theater, artist openings, galleries, collectives, tried to absorb where I am and what I'm doing. And then the big question was like, what do I do with my artificial intelligence choir idea? So in some sense, I didn't want to create a project that just shows, or a piece that shows how artificial intelligence works. I did find that boring. And I was trying to find some context. I came across the idea, or maybe it needs to do something that is maybe with voice cloning, where we can use the voices of people we've lost that create emotions in us and put it in a conceptual place, maybe like a Greek tragedy or something. I was trying just to make sense of this AI thing. How do I use it in my work? That was sort of one thought I had. The other thought I had was, maybe it's not that. Maybe I need to go out of the performance space and find something completely different. Maybe it's a listening space. Maybe it's not something we're used to, a place where we go to and listen to voices, listen to something else, to reconnect. So I looked into sculptures, public sculptures or more organic sculptures that were really interesting to me. And then the other thought was like, maybe it's none of that. Maybe it's more like a really analytical thing that I look at a human choir and a potential artificial choir and compare it and use artificial intelligence for visualization. So these were my three sort of groundbreaking personal findings. None of them made me happy. I was like, oh, I hate it all. What do I do with this? And I was encouraged by the Kustodie and the Schaffler Lab just to keep searching. They're great ideas. Keep looking. Allow yourself time, which I normally never do, which was the biggest luxury I could possibly do to myself. Allow yourself time just to keep going, keep looking, keep searching. And then I came across the biggest problem of all, that artificial intelligence needs a lot of data to do something. And I couldn't find data that I was excited about to put in. And I kept thinking, what do I do with this artificial intelligence choir if the data I put in is not interesting to me? Equally, as an artist, I work with found sound. I'm not a sound designer. I find the sound in locals, or I find a sound that is very quiet and amplified through my work. So obviously algorithms don't, or systems of algorithms don't make any sound. So I really came like as if you drive against the wall. I realized that how I work and artificial intelligence can't really connect. So I felt like there was a need of trying to find sound that I'm excited about. I didn't want to spend 6 months here recording voices and creating a new sound. I was really disappointed that there was no original voice or sound in AI. And what I did next, I researched where's that sound then? So if AI needs a lot of data, where's all that data? So I came to these wonderful, probably you've seen these bizarre images of server farms that have all the data that you and I, but also artificial intelligence uses. And I found these bizarre pictures online, clean, shiny, sci-fi pictures. And I asked, do we have a server farm here in Dresden for the university? And we did. So I said, can we please go and visit? And surprise, that building is full of sound. It was an entire building as loud as anything, as, I don't know, hundreds of hair dryers. I say hair dryers because the door opened and my hair went like this. So it's very different to this. And if you research server farm sounds, they're very quiet online. But when you're in that space, it's incredibly loud. Depending where you go to, there's different sounds. So I was really inspired, but equally the feeling I had in this space was I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? We as society, but also why does no one really talk about this? That we're advocating to think about artificial intelligence, to work with artificial intelligence, but equally it's like this 24/7 monstrous building that creates incredible amount of waste, electricity, people looking after it. So I was really, really shocked. And it put me a little bit off of working with the technology. I was like, well, as an artist, if I have that knowledge now, do I have to work with this technology if I think there's something wrong with it? Am I allowed to actually change my idea and be like, maybe I need to question this rather than just continue? And the other point that was really interesting to me was realizing wherever there is artificial intelligence, there are humans. You don't see them now here, but this is from yesterday where we did a shoot in one of those rooms. And this sci-fi idea that artificial intelligence lives on its own is so wrong as well. So there's always either a human preparing the data, looking, training the artificial intelligence system, or even making sense out of what comes out of it. But equally, technicians are every day there looking after this, building, drilling, buckets of water, cables. So there's a lot of human activity, very different to this thing that gets sold to us as the cloud as well, which the word in itself I find very difficult to work with. But so I did an experiment after coming out of this sort of building, just to get a sense of, do we have an awareness of what we're actually doing here? I texted all the people who were on my phone saying, this is an experiment for a project that I'm currently working on. Can you please send me the number of photos you currently have on your phone? Just wanted to see something. And regardless of how high the number was, everyone was sort of ashamed and shocked and feeling guilty. And here's another picture of me trying to make Siri sing on the corner up there. But look at my desktop. Not that I'm just a messy desktop person, but it just made a very visible that, yes, we're trying to work with new technology, but at the same time, we're not looking at our hoarding, at our e-hoarding. How many files do we have? How many email accounts do we have? How many server farms are actually hoarding our 7,000 pictures of our dogs? So all these things, are they really needed? And that suddenly was much more interesting to me than actually working with the technology. It was more the human interaction with it, and also this not looking at it. Currently, I'm looking into words. I'm trying to find the right words to use in the performance. One word that I've come across constantly is this word, security. If you look at server farms on their websites, it always says security 24/7, da 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 da. But also, if you get an email from your iCloud or Dropbox, it's always about safe. Store them safely, your family pictures, suddenly it's all about memories and personal things and how to protect. That's also another word that gets used a lot. So I'm currently researching words online, but also in other fields that sort of channel a bit the feeling that I'm following. I don't know exactly where I'm going with that research, but I need to follow. I need to continue till I find that it all makes sense. Another thing I found in a book was a quote which said, "The issue is that knowledge is power, and deliberately keeping information from another person is to deprive them of power, which results in a state of dependency and powerlessness." So I did find that really interesting, because that's not a book about artificial intelligence or knowledge sharing or any of it. It was a book about nursing and healthcare ethics. And it really, I felt torn that many people don't know that these server farms exist. They might think about it, but not in this sense of how tragic it really is, and no one has the access to go in because there's a lot of security reasons that you can't go and actually feel and think about it. So for further my research here at Schaufler Lab, I continued just going to spaces all over town, looking at places. I work very site-specific, so that's a crucial point for me. And we found this theater place, Hellerau, it's outside Dresden. And they have this wonderful cellar, orchestra pit, which is also not allowed to be visited. You need security to bring you downstairs to see it. And then it clicked for me. I was like, whatever I'm doing, it has to be there. There has to be security leading you to it. So I asked, would there be okay if I do some sort of installation there and we open the floor? Not as much as there, but some sort of opening. And they were very open to that idea and said yes. So I cannot tell you what exactly I'm doing at Hellerau. I can tell you it will be next year May. And there will be some sort of technology research in it, but there will be also humans in it. What they will be saying, I don't know yet. What the piece will be about, I don't know yet either. Will it use artificial intelligence? I don't know. But I think as an artist, you need to trust your practice. You need to trust in that feeling. It's important to stay in that I don't know. And I think for all of us, we should say that to ourselves much more, that it's actually really good that I'm in that space where I don't know, and I'm allowed to break my own rules. I'm allowed to do whatever the hell I like, as long as I give myself the space of I don't know what I'm doing. And I hope that can inspire you all a little, and to be okay when you are in that space, to notice that space, and to not torture yourself, that it's a good place. I know that this actually has always a negative association, this sentence, but I actually see it as as I said earlier, the biggest luxury an artist could give to oneself. Thank you.